Yeah. Icky Woods will celebrate it. Just about anything.
So you think Barney's interest in Icky Woods is really just Carter Bays talking directly to the audience?
It could be. I don't know why Barney would know anything about Icky Woods.
Yeah, he was a pro football player for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's not even the team you would think that Carter Bays would like, being from Shaker Heights.
No, I assume he'd be a Browns fan. But yeah, I mean, Icky's career ended 14 years before this show starts. I don't know why Barney's still holding on to that one.
Well, maybe he's just a real big fan of performance. He is a magician.
That's true.
He liked the dance.
He likes the plays.
Maybe that Geico commercial came out around that time.
That could be, too.
Get some cold cuts. Get some cold cuts. Get some cold cuts. Woo!
Ooh. Yeah, do another woo without me talking.
Woo! This is HIMYM Superfans. Hello, Chris Venezia.
Hello, James Hamilton.
Hello, Mother fans. This is the show where we talk about CBS comedy, How I Met Your Mother.
And we are going to ruin this show for you.
By ruin it, of course, we mean we're going to spoil the plot points for the entire series.
And even though we're only doing the first season, we will have spoilers for the rest of the show. So if you don't want to know that after Ted throws away the torn shirt, the mother ends up with it and uses it in her artwork, then maybe come back to this podcast once you've watched the whole series.
Brown and green together at last.
There you go. Ka-chow.
On this episode, we're talking about Return of the Shirt, a.k.a. Ineffable. It's Season 1, Episode 4, if you want to watch after this. It originally aired October 10th, 2005, and is written by our favorite writer, Courtney Kang. She also wrote pretty much every episode of the Robin Sparkles story. Directed by Pamela Accidental Curly Fry Fryman.
Alright, so in this episode, Ted finds an old shirt and decides to date an old girlfriend while Robin says inappropriate words on television.
So about this point in the series, the gang is starting to getting a little more comfortable with each other. We're 4 episodes in. We've had a Barney episode. We've had a Robin episode. This is another Ted episode, but kind of bringing the cast together.
Yeah, Robin and Barney have a lot of interaction in this episode.
Yeah.
Marshal doesn't seem to be in this episode almost at all, in my opinion. But he gets plenty of other things in other episodes.
So what do you remember most about this episode, Chris?
I learned a lot from this episode. And this show taught me so many things, but this episode in particular taught me what Krav Maga is, taught me the word ineffable, and I learned about the Icky Shuffle.
The Icky Shuffle is some kind of yoga, right?
Yeah.
I remember this is when I started hearing Ted say, right, right?
When he walks into the bar wearing the shirt?
Yeah, and that's something that became quotable for me. I like to repeat, right, right?
I do remember when that started being a thing, and I'm not sure if it happened here first, but it's possible. Right? Right?
Right.
Alright, let's go to Act 1. In Act 1, starts with the credits.
And we jump to 2030, where future Ted is narrating, "Kids, this story starts with a shirt."
So Ted finds a shirt in his closet. He's had it for 6 years and never liked it. Now he suddenly likes it.
This is a fast-paced episode, so they're not wasting any time.
Booger! So Ted sits down at the bar. Barney says booger, Barney explains that he's trying to get Robin to say booger on TV.
Ted takes a sip of bourbon, and he's like, this is good. Good bourbon. Whose bourbon is this?
It turns out it was sitting on the table before he got there.
Yeah, yuck.
So Ted ponders, if I didn't like this shirt, and I didn't like bourbon, and now I like both, is there something else from the past that I didn't like that I do now?
Marshal, with his first line in the episode, says, "You're finally going to watch Goonies again?"
Ted doesn't seem that interested in Goonies.
No.
Which makes him a schmuck. Goonies is awesome.
Yeah,
what's wrong with you, Ted?
It seems like it would be a show right up his alley. You know, he likes Star Wars.
Yeah, it's in the same time period.
Yeah. Ted decides since he likes this old shirt, and he likes bourbon, he's also starting to wonder, what about that city I visited once? It was raining and therefore I never liked it. Or what are some other second impressions that I can make? And he starts thinking about old girlfriends.
And Barney has a Barneyism. There's only 2 reasons to date someone you've already dated. Breast Implants.
A rule that Barney breaks himself later, but...
all his rules are meant to be broken.
Yeah. So the first girl from Ted's past that the gang suggests is Steph, who we find out is a former porn star with 175 videos done in 1 month.
And for those of you not doing the math at home, that would average more than 5 a day. And I think that making porn would be exhausting, and 5 a day for a month straight sounds impossible.
Yeah, unless she's talking like, I made 175 films that were each 2 minutes long. We don't get to learn a lot about Steph, because the next one comes along right away.
It's Jackie. We find out hit a hitchhiker with her car and drove off. And laughs it off.
Yeah, she's completely unconcerned.
Yeah, NBD.
In this episode, they have a lot of sets and a lot of locations. And they had to at least 3 different restaurants for Steph, Jackie, and Natalie at the end of the episode. And I'm guessing that they just ran out of time or money or space, because when they were doing the restaurant scene with Jackie, it was just like some curtains and a table. Looked pretty fake to me.
Steph's actually looked pretty fake too. It might have been like 3 wall panels that
Yeah.
they just barely put up around them.
Yeah, that
to
one.
like mimic a Japanese restaurant.
Yeah, that one at least got the feel of a Japanese restaurant. The other one is like there's a painting hanging on a velvet wall. Like
No, that made no sense at all. Yeah, it looked like curtains or drapes or something to me.
Yeah.
But then they remember Natalie.
Natalie.
With the tea candles and the sock monkeys and Bell and Sebastian.
Do this nice little special effect where they have the soft focus and the sepia tone and the edge blur to sort of give you that dreamy-like memory quality. Ted's, remembering Natalie and their times together fondly.
Yeah, and I think that the effect that you're talking about, the special effect, also in part shows how fuzzy his memory is, because it kind of looks fuzzy to me. And he doesn't remember that ended badly. It's actually possible that he doesn't know, and we'll get there.
It's all details, too. Like, it's a really close-up shot of lighting the candles and the sock monkeys and the CDs. It's a really close shot. He doesn't see the big picture, literally.
Yeah, and there's even a close-up on her smile, which is like obscenely close. It's mostly her teeth.
Yes.
And so, very pretty smile, but it's such a weird shot for television to, like, have it focus on somebody's mouth for a few seconds.
Cinematically, he's not seeing the whole picture up.
Yeah.
So Ted says that he broke up with her because he wasn't ready for a serious commitment at age 24. Now, at age 27, he says he is. Yeah. Suddenly.
We'll see about that. Barney gets upset that Ted dumped a porn star and screams friendship over.
Friendship over!
And of course he's lying that their friendship is not over, especially if Ted is his first friend ever.
So next we see Robin getting called into her boss's office. And she's getting assigned a story down at City Hall. But it's not the one she wants.
No, it's covering the city's oldest hot dog cart.
Today, a delicious hot dog will cost you $2.50, but back when the stand opened in 1955, you could get one for only a nickel.
Robin tells Lily that she said nipple on the news. I kind of wonder if she had to tell Lily because Lily didn't watch it.
It's possible.
No one watches it, so she had to tell Lily literally. Barney watched it, though, because he comes in and says that he can see Robin's nickels.
In a weird way, Barney's very supportive of Robin.
Yes, in a weird way.
So we get this pretty memorable scene between Robin and Barney in the apartment where Barney says all this weird stuff, like, a little green salad on a side is good for you, me, and Mr. McGee.
And I don't know if that's a quote from something. I don't think it is. I think Barney's just being a wackadoodle.
Who's Mr. McGee?
Yes. And, green salad? Has anyone called money green salad once before this moment?
I have not.
And this also gives us another scene that shows Barney has stupid, crazy money.
Yeah. Because he keeps upping the ante, like, for, what was it, $50, then $100, then it's $1,000.
And he always has it on him in cash, and giving her that money doesn't deplete his whole money roll.
Yeah.
So, shows that he walks around with usually several $100s on him at any time.
Robin says she's going to think about it, and she leaves, and then Ted enters, and he says that he found it. He found Natalie's number, and astute viewers will notice that he has a cordless phone and a little black book. Something that, if he had met her a couple years later, her number would be in his phone just forever.
Yeah, and if he had deleted it from the phone, there'd be no way to get it back at that point.
But he's still wearing the shirt.
Yeah, and Lily asked him, is it yesterday already?
He calls Natalie anyway, and she says, go to hell, and hangs up on him.
And then Ted says, she remembers me.
Oh, yeah. Hey there, are you listening to this on some sort of smartphone thingy? What do you got there, an app? Is that an app? I bet it's an app. There's probably some sort of share button. Could you please just touch that share button for me? Yeah, just touch it. Just touch it a little. So after the commercial, we come back, and Lily wants to know, why would Natalie hang up on you, Ted?
And at this point, Marshal enters the room, but doesn't say anything for a while. It all looks natural on camera, but then explains why he hasn't had any lines yet, and then why he suddenly has a line in the room later. It's like he hasn't just been sitting there quiet the whole time. He was actually in his bedroom.
Oh, yeah. Well, Barney has a theory that Ted must have slept with Natalie's sister, or her mom.
Right. Those are the only things that he's interested in.
Yeah.
So Ted admits to having broken up with her over the phone.
Which is pretty bad.
Then he explains a little bit more. He actually broke up with her by leaving her a message on her answering machine.
Which is like a box that holds voicemails.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, answering machines. They were a thing, especially in 2002, when they would have broken up. Much more believable.
Yeah. And this is when we get to see Lily, the mom of the group, and also Lily, the physically abusive friend. She starts beating on Ted, or slapping him on the arm.
And she's like pulling on the shirt. Almost looks like she's going to tear it.
Yeah, she looks like she's going to tear the shirt, and Ted's like, no, Lily, please, the shirt! We can't lose the shirt.
It's a little early in the series, but later Lily usually only gets this mad at Barney about things.
Marshal jumps in to defend Ted, and he says, is there an unterrible way to break up with someone? And I'd have to say, I don't think there is. Chris, is there? Do you have an unterrible way to break up with someone?
No, I think that it's ultimately going to turn out much the same regardless if you're going to break up. I think either the person's going to get upset about it, or they're going to have seen it coming, or something like that. I don't think that how it happens really makes that much of a difference. But there is definitely a worse way to do it, and that's breaking up with them by leaving them a message on their answering machine on their birthday, while there are people in the apartment that hear the message who are waiting for you to come home and have a surprise party for you.
Yeah, that's pretty awful. So Lily gets even more upset when she learns this, and says, you didn't even have the sack to face those tears. Ted says, one of my favorite lines in this show, no, that was the old me. This is the new old shirt-wearing, sack-having Ted.
Right.
So one more thing before we go on. Barney offering reasons why he should not have broken up with her over the phone. One of which being, desperate please don't leave me sex is amazing. And also he later shares with the group that my little sister just got married and I'm about to turn 30 sex is also amazing.
Yeah, I bet that one is.
So this is definitely upping Barney's creep factor and basically showing that he enjoys women who are emotionally vulnerable.
It's true, and we do find out in other episodes not too far down the road that is exactly right.
Yeah. Speaking of women who are emotionally vulnerable, in the next scene, Robin says, I'm a dirty, dirty girl.
Yep, and smacks her own ass.
Oh.
So she's doing a story about the oldest twins in New York City, but they actually die before the news broadcast starts. She goes ahead and does the report on them dying, while some custodian is taking down the birthday decorations in the background for what would have been their 100th birthday.
Yeah, you couldn't even wait. Like, I don't know, maybe their birthday was the next day, and it would just be depressing to have them up, or...
Nope, it needs to be on camera during Robin's segment.
During the live broadcast.
So Robin's boss, Joel, doesn't even watch her segments. He calls her into his office to talk to her about his dog.
Yeah, and he couldn't even properly placate her. Like, didn't even look up from his paperwork when he said, "Yeah, New York loves you, baby doll. Get out of my office."
So, back to Ted's story. He goes to Natalie's apartment, which I think is wildly inappropriate at all, but also considering that she said, "Go to hell," and hung up on him.
Yes, that translates to Ted as, "Come on over." And this is where Ted practices his famous fake walking away.
Right. I'll just leave this sock monkey here and leave.
But, yeah, and I can't believe Natalie fell for that. I mean, unless she really loves sock monkeys.
Right.
She couldn't resist.
Well, who doesn't love sock monkeys?
Yeah. His plan works. Natalie opens the door, goes to pick up the sock monkey, and then Ted steps into her apartment.
Right.
Which kind of up in the creepiness factor. It's essentially illegal trespass at that point.
Yeah, she's trying to shut the door, which goes back to a question raised in our other podcasts. Is Ted sometimes too creepy?
That question can only be answered by Ted's next line. Self-respect is overrated!
So it turns out Ted can be that creepy. I really feel like at some point Ted snapped. Maybe like when he finds out that Marshall and Lily are getting engaged. Because he says he never used to do this. And when we see flashbacks to when he was in college with Karen, and then there's also the young lady that he lost his virginity to, he was kind of, passive.
Definitely a pushover.
And then now, like on the day that his best friend gets engaged, and Marshall and Lily's lives are moving forward, he just like blows a gasket. And he's just like, well, I'm just going to just be as creepy as possible. That'll win someone over.
Yeah. Tell a woman I met I just loved her, and then give a nice little monologue at the end. So I think Natalie doesn't have much self-respect, because she does go out to coffee with Ted, and seems like their coffee is still warm when they end up back in bed.
Yep. So things move quickly, and she takes the schlub back.
They're immediately banging.
So we skip ahead, and they start dating. We skip ahead, and the gang is at the bar, and Natalie leaves for her Krav Maga class.
And once she leaves, Ted admits to the group that he has to break up with Natalie. So
they've been back together a week or two.
Yeah, it's unclear, but they're dating long enough for the tea candles and the Bell and Sebastian to come back, so...
Alright, well that takes us to Act 3.
Which begins with Lily slapping Ted some more.
Yeah, and he says the reason he has to break up with her is that he's not feeling that thing. Now, I feel like I know what Ted's talking about here, and I've referred to this in my own life in the past as the spark. Like, you either feel the spark or you don't. And he says, I'm not feeling that thing. That's what I think he's talking about.
Yeah, it's, like he says, it's ineffable. It can't be described. It's the sense of falling in love. It's totally missing from his relationship with Natalie. Well, and again, Marshall's only role in the episode is to repeat what he said earlier, which is there a less awful way to break up with someone? And Barney has one suggestion. You look fat in those jeans.
Yep, at that point you're free to go.
Yep.
So, yeah, Marshall's given advice on what to do, as is Barney. Barney's actually sounds like it would be successful. I don't think it would be kind, but I think it would absolutely work. I mean, actually, it would be funny if that one backfired, because all of these backfire later, spoiler. But what would be funny is if he said that Natalie looked fat in those jeans, and you'd be like, what are you talking about? Are you doing a thing?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? What does that mean?
No, I don't.
Well, right, also she's like a stick.
I have a tiny, skinny ass.
So Marshall asks, is there a better in breaking up, or is it just less awful? And this is similar to his other question from earlier, and I argue the same again. no, there's not a better in breaking up. There might be a less awful.
Yeah, and moreover, Marshall and Lily keep giving breakup advice. Neither one of them have that much experience breaking up. I mean, as far as I know, Lily's never been dumped. She ended it with Scooter and then started dating Marshall. And Marshall never dated anyone except, unless you count that relationship he had when he was 8 years old or 12 or 13 or something. It lasted a day.
And there's one where he was on somebody's hook, but it wasn't really, they weren't dating.
Yeah, right, yeah. So, really, very little experience breaking up or bringing the breakup-y.
Yeah. So, but they feel the need to say a lot of stuff here. So there's that. I do want to talk about the she's not the one, which is what Ted ultimately comes to as the reason to break up with her. And I guess that's what he means when he says that he's not feeling that thing. I argue that I'm not feeling that thing carries more weight than she's not the one. I'm guessing he only thinks that she's not the one because he's not feeling the thing. The former implies the latter.
Well, Lily says tell her the truth, that she's not the one, and Ted agrees. He thinks that's a great idea. Lily compares being someone's the one to being winning the lottery.
Yeah, and Ted agrees again. You wouldn't take it personally if you lost the lottery.
And Robin shows up to remind us why she hasn't been in the scene.
Right.
She says, I just wrapped up a newscast by honking my own boobs.
We don't get to see it.
Honka honka.
It's a sad day for HIMYM fans.
Yeah. But we do learn about the Icky Shuffle when Barney suggests, here's another thing you can do for me for $1,000. And he does the Icky Shuffle dance, and Robin doesn't know what it is, but the other three do.
Yeah, they've seen it before. I'm guessing they've seen Barney do it.
Probably. Barney proceeds to add a whole soliloquy to the dance about screw you, Dave Shula, and all this other stuff. Robin's like, just write it down for me.
I like that when he starts out the idea, he says, all you have to do is... And then he goes into a long dance that has like a monologue that she'd have to memorize or have on cue cards in front of her to do. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
That's all. Something real easy.
And this was one of the oddest parts of the episode for me because Barney's a New Yorker, Lily's a New Yorker, Marshall's from Minnesota, but Ted's from Ohio, Carter Bays is from Ohio, and so I'm wondering, is Barney standing in for Carter Bays and his frustration with the Bengals? And if he was, then why is he a Bengals fan and not a Browns fan? And where the heck is Craig Thomas from?
We'll probably never find out. But if you find out, leave us a comment.
Maybe Courtney Kang.
Could be. She did write it. So let's cut to the restaurant.
Ted takes Natalie to a nice restaurant, which is actually one of the sets that they spent some money on. Ted's plan is to break up with her at the restaurant.
And why? That's a terrible idea. Do it at someone's home, her home, your home, somewhere where you can kick them out or leave in a hurry if you need to. Not at a restaurant. What kind of amateur is Ted?
Yeah, that's not even the worst part.
We find out that it is, again, her birthday.
Oh my God, Ted, for the love of God, just put off the breakup one freaking day. 12 hours even. Come on.
But he's got to do it. Well, we'll get there. So let's cut back to Robin for a moment and let the tension at the restaurant build.
She's more interesting. She's interviewing New York's oldest handsome cab driver.
And as she's doing the newscast, she slips and falls into a big pile of horse crap.
Meanwhile, Barney and the rest of the gang are watching at the bar, and Barney couldn't be happier. She sounds like she's really hurt.
Yeah, and this is where we get the first appearance of your favorite waitress.
Wendy the waitress. You can see her in the bar scene right behind Barney before she has even any lines.
Mm-hmm. So let's see what the new sack having Ted is up to at the restaurant. Yep, he does not put off breaking up with her.
Nope.
Natalie has a justifiably nasty reaction to this, but it is funny to watch all of Ted's carefully planned answers backfire.
Yeah. She hears Ted saying dating him is like winning the lottery, and That she's not effable.
Right.
F stands for fuck.
That it does. And that's why we have an explicit rating in iTunes.
That's right.
So she kicks his ass at the restaurant.
Yeah, and pretty significantly, too.
I'd like to point out that no one stops her at the restaurant. I think it's possible because the whole restaurant got to hear what Ted did. Because she goes through it step by step by step. So they all know what he did. And they're like, yeah, he's got this coming.
Yeah. Either that or they were terrified of the guerrilla fighter, street fighting lady. 2/3 legs. She's just throwing kicks everywhere.
It turns out that's what Krav Maga is. This is where I and the rest of the audience, if they didn't know already, is Israeli guerrilla street fighting.
One more thing we'll mention before we get out of this scene is it's another opportunity for Radner to show off his range of performance. Like, he's so flustered, and then his last line before he gets the crap beat out of him is, "I'm just super busy right now."
Yep, the lamest breakup line ever. I'm super busy right now. As she's screaming at him.
Yeah.
The actress is like literally pulled all the stops and is screaming right in his face.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just super busy right now.
So, back at the bar, my favorite waitress gets her first line. She's delivering drinks to Robin.
Yeah, they've been paid for by guys who saw her fall in horse crap.
Yeah.
Barney had the newscast on.
Probably remember these guys. It's in my hair! My knee! Yeah, those guys. So Ted shows up in his destroyed shirt and tells the gang what happened.
They try to comfort him. Barney wants to tell him about what happened to Robin. Robin doesn't want him to know.
Ted says, it doesn't matter what you do. Sometimes, no matter what, you end up flat on your back, flaying around in a big old pile of horse crap.
Yeah, and he says his phone gets the internet now. And once upon a time, I thought this was possible. But I've thought about this. Phones then could definitely get the internet. But I don't know of any local news channel that posted videos online at that time. Most still don't, even in 2015. YouTube started in 2005 and probably was not well known by October. And even if it was, I bet this newscast wouldn't have ended up on YouTube. I'm not sure going viral was even a thing in 2005. What do you think, audience?
Yeah, the only explanation I could come up with is Barney had a phone that took video and he pointed it at the TV and sent it to Ted.
That is possible. I'll have to look up and see if that was a thing back then.
But even then, we're thinking about bandwidth issues and space and resolution. So it might be the lamest plot hole, but this could be a plot hole in the series.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it. I just it's not breaking the story.
No. So the story ends with a future Ted narration from 2030. And the kids are pretty much only taking away from the story the fact that their dad got beat up by a girl. I mean, you can even see the look on Penny's face, like she wants to say something, but she doesn't.
Yeah, Ted's kids are jerks.
So, the guest star of the week is definitely Ann Dudek, who plays Natalie. And you might have seen her before this on Friends, also getting broken up with.
Oh.
And later on one of a dozen shows where she would do a guest spot or like a season or two.
Yeah, didn't you say like House and Mad Men and stuff?
Yeah, House, Mad Men, or two of them.
For first use, I did put down Natalie because she comes back for a cameo in a later episode in a flashback. The episode is Say Cheese, Season 5, Episode 18.
Coincidentally, that episode takes place during Lily's birthday. So Lily's being a bit of a birthday queen in that episode, and Natalie, depending on how you feel about being Ted, maybe Natalie's being a little bit of a birthday queen. Also, the first time we have Wendy the waitress, who I don't think she's identified as Wendy the waitress yet.
No, They haven't said Wendy the waitress, because that ends up being her name.
Yeah.
And it turns out that no one knows what her last name is.
Right.
It's really kind of sad.
Yeah. Another theme that continues along is Ted starting a relationship that is doomed to end in failure, based solely on his desire for his new girlfriend to be the one. He starts a relationship, puts a lot of pressure on it to be the last relationship, and it fails.
Yeah, I agree that Ted should just focus on the moment and not try to look for the one and just enjoy the ride. But I also think that what you're saying is that his search for the one sort of overrided Natalie's desire for him to leave her alone.
Yeah, he's not thinking about other people as much as he is his wants and needs. I want a wife and the one. Natalie told me to go to hell, but I want what I want, so I'm going to go over to her apartment.
Right. And he does, and she does end up getting hurt. Well, he also gets hurt, just physically.
Yeah.
So back to Say Cheese for a moment, the episode where Natalie comes back. We have a continuity error where Marshal consoles Natalie because Ted's broken up with her. And this scene takes place in February of 2005. But Ted hasn't seen her since 2002. Between 2002 and October of 2005, he hasn't seen her. So this scene is off for some reason.
Yeah, it could just be that, this story, despite having aired in October 2005, maybe it took place in February 2005, or maybe Marshall's misremembering, or maybe future Ted's just misremembering, because, it was 25 years ago, kids.
Yeah, they haven't really set up the unreliable narrator thing yet, but it's the out that the show gives itself in being told 25 years in the future is that they can change facts whenever they want because Ted's just remembering it wrong.
Yeah. And I will say that even though Ann Dudik's only in Say Cheese for about 20 seconds, it is a fantastic performance. She doesn't even use real words. It's just a crying, mumbling sound.
Blubbering.
Yeah, it's pretty wonderful. So, Chris, on Star Trek in the first episode, they show you a bunch of shots of the ship, and then you never really see those same shots again?
No.
Well, that's what happens in Star Trek. And in a lot of sci-fi shows, or even like a superhero show, they'll make a big deal about the first time you see the ship or the first time the superhero puts on his costume. You see a lot of shots, close-ups. This is what his gloves look like. This is what his belt looks like. And then that same show, 2 or 3 or 5 seasons later, it's just like, oh, we need to be over here now. So they just cut to that scene and they don't even bother with showing the ship or the superhero getting into his supercar or whatever. I have to say, I think this episode is the romantic comedy equivalent of that scene in a sci-fi or superhero show. Because this is where Ted shows his suiting up for a relationship, and everything's going to be cool and neat and neat, and then after a while it's like, oh, here's blah blah, I'm dating her now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you're saying that Ted's breakup of the week will soon become so commonplace that it just gets glossed over?
Yeah, exactly.
Often wrapped up right before the credits?
Yeah, in a voiceover. One of the more unique things about this episode in terms of showing Ted's relationships is it gives a lot of screen time to these intimate, personal moments. Not sex, just intimacy. And that feeling you get from a relationship, that they show here with the tea candles and the music and the sock monkeys.
I do think it's interesting that Ted has apparently given up on Robin at this point.
Yeah.
And they seem like they're just friends.
Yeah, they genuinely seem like they're getting along as just friends. And
one last continuity error before we get to the character motivations. Robin appears to be hard up for money in this episode, although to an extent she's not doing it for the money and Barney recognizes that. But she seems like she's hard up for money, even though we find out in Season 9 that her family has 19 craploads of money. So the character motivations.
Ted, in this episode, is still obsessed with the one, and that manifests itself by him looking into his past. And he found a shirt, an old shirt he likes, so maybe he can find some old people, places, or things that he likes.
Robin's beginning to show signs of not being happy with her job, enough to say dirty things on the air for money.
Lily, meanwhile, is becoming the mom of the group. They're both giving advice to Ted on breaking up, and neither one of them, I think, are really qualified because they really don't have a lot of relationship experience.
Yeah, Marshall's barely in this episode. He does do the lawyer thing, which I like that, because at least it's within his character, and that suits his character. But he barely has anything to contribute, and when he does, it's not really that helpful.
Yeah, he's basically there to contradict Lily, just to drive the plot forward.
Right. Barney, he is up to things, though.
Oh, yeah.
He's being devious and trying to manipulate Robin to see if he can. That's something that I've always felt about Barney, is that I think he likes to see if he can get people to do things, and that gives him a sense of control and power, and he doesn't care about the money at all. It could have probably been $10,000, and he wouldn't have batted an eye. But, he wants to see if he can get this new person in the group to do his bidding, to get caught in his web, as he says.
Yeah, step into my web. And then Natalie, of course. We really don't know much about her, but I'm implying from the fact that she had a really nice-looking apartment. She was dressed and well made up. And when Ted called her, she said, go to hell right away. I'm implying from all that, and plus the fact that she's taking this Krav Maga class, so she's constantly improving herself, I'm taking away from all that she's got her shit together. That's certainly more than Ted does.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
So she's a woman on a mission, and she's got plans and determination and motivation, all things that Ted seems to be lacking.
Yeah, he's doing a lot more doing and not very much thinking at this point. Didn't you have a life lesson for us this week?
Yeah, my life lesson is for all those guys out there who your girlfriend's taking a class. Show interest in it, because it might be Krav Maga, and if you don't know what that is, she might beat you up.
True story.
So that's it, folks. How did you feel about this episode? You can let us know what you think by emailing us at himymsuperfans@gmail.com. You can also join our Facebook group, HIMYM Superfans, and leave us a message there.
Each week, James and I get so much out of discussing the episode. We really enjoy doing this, and we hope you enjoy it too. If you like the show, the best way to help us out is to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. You don't have to write a review.
Yeah, no one will read the review anyway, so use that space to just tell us about your worst breakup story.
And give us that 5 stars. It really helps us with getting discovered and helps us grow our audience so we can keep making the show.
Join us next week for Okay, Awesome! Otherwise known as that time that Ted went deaf, the one with the coat check girl, that time Barney grinds up on his cousin while wearing a potato shirt.
Potato shirt?
Yeah, it's silver. It looks like a baked potato.
Like wrapped in aluminum foil?
Yeah.
Okay, that took me a minute. I'm a dirty, dirty girl. Ow.